Hello, everybody. This is MSP Mountain. My name is Eric Muth from Support Adventure, and today I have Hartland Ross. What would you say is the most common reason that you find MSP owners want to sell, or what are the different variations of sort of like where they're at on the journey? Like, say they've been going 20 years, 10 years, or something like that. And is it mostly just burnout? Is it mostly like they want to get onto something else, or is it like what when does it make sense to sell, and when do they come to you, and what sort of like needs do they have that selling would fulfill?
So you absolutely nailed one of them. Burnout is probably, and we don't track this, but probably the number one that we hear is just and it's not necessarily tied to age. I mean, it could be burnout in the 30s. It could be burnout in someone in their 40s. And certainly by the time 50s and 60s rolls around, people are checking that box off. In some cases, we've seen it where they just have nothing left. They're completely done. Usually, it's just that they're tired and they know what it's going to take to kind of move themselves to the next level, and they just don't have it in them to make that happen. So that's a huge one. Sometimes health, unfortunately, comes into play of one sort or another. It may be, and usually is related to the person's health, the owner's health, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's related to a family member's health. And we've heard, a number of stories there. Candidly, we've unfortunately had groups that are on death's door and need to do something. And been able to fortunately help them out and before they end up passing away. So I've had a few of those. Of course, retirement is in there. And as the baby boomers age, we're seeing a little bit more of that. Sometimes there's another business that someone's spun out or has had for a while. We've even seen groups where they've got a day job and an MSP, and they're moonlighting, and they can't keep up both of them, and so they need to pick. And so some have left the job, some have, but we don't hear about those ones so much because they're going to run their business. But others have chosen a job and tried and then sold off the business. But so there's different motivators. Sometimes there's also the odd kind of partner dispute, or even just a partner who just wants to do something different, and that partner is the tech lead, and the other one's more the sort of sales and operations. Well, now they're missing half the formula, and they need to replace that, or perhaps ponder their own future, and so those conversations come up. But also a lot of times we're having these conversations well in advance of someone actually wanting to sell. So they're just sort of going through the discovery process of, all right, well, what's involved? What do I need to do? What do I need to be thinking about? What might I expect for the business? They talk to their accountant and say, look, I want to retire. What do I need? And so is there any kind of a delta there between what they can get for their business and what they need to retire? And if so, let's talk about that and see whether they can create a plan to realize that over the next year, 2, 3, whatever it is.
So it sounds like there's an element of coaching here, that they can reach out when they're just sort of thinking about it, flirting with the idea, and you can sort of offer advice. I mean, what does somebody need to do to sell an MSP? What are the sticking points, and what can they do to prepare themselves to even before they're listed on your platform, but what's the lead up to sort of get there and be ready for one of the buyers on your platform to sort of close a deal with them? What do they have to show? What do they have to sort out? And what do they kind of need to consider on that journey?
Yeah, look, I have this conversation, a fair bit. As I said, not everybody who engages with us is necessarily ready to sort of pull the trigger at the time. So the conversation is centered around what types of things that they need to do to prepare. And some of these things, frankly, they can be done in a matter of hours with some dedication to sort of clean things up. In other cases, it's going to take time simply because it's more sort of structural, I guess, in nature. and in some cases time is not on someone's side. Unfortunately, they have to, it is what it is, and they need to move forward or want to move forward with the business as is. But a best practices that any M&A advisor will tell a business owner is to clean up their financials. One item that comes up consistently, and we don't find there to be a ton of pushback, but it's better practice than not, is to remove personal expenses. So it's standard practice for those who are trying to reduce their tax liabilities, of course, to include cars, travel, entertainment, health benefits, in some cases for their extended family, and other related expenses. We've seen some related personal expenses, and we've seen some kind of crazy things, home renovations, significant
yeah,
on financial statements as well. So removing those or compartmentalizing them so that they can be easily removed and identified, and that there's trust associated with those adjustments in the eyes of a buyer. Categorization is another one related to financials. So someone says, oh, geez, so what's this miscellaneous revenue or miscellaneous expense or uncategorized expense? Or why is your COGS for this particular line item for security or backup or whatever it is greater than the revenue for security or backup? Oh, geez, well, there must be some other items in there that shouldn't be in there. So it's not best to have the buyer pick up all those types of things. The seller should try to clean those up and get the categorizations properly aligned, and also know what's in those categories as well. So talk to your accountant, talk to your bookkeeper, and understand how to sort of discuss and defend the way it's laid out. So some of those things can be, if it's just a matter of cleaning up the P&L, that's easy. Personal expenses, you can remove those. Certainly you can remove them going forward. Some of the other ones that are a little bit more involved and harder are getting customers to sign contracts. Ideally auto-renewing contracts that are renewed annually, and ones that can't be canceled before the end of the term, at least not without paying out the term. So that one takes time to negotiate with the customers. If your customers aren't used to contracts, it's harder. So you need to provide some kind of an incentive and rationale to defend those contracts. Another one, to remove yourself as an owner from day-to-day operations as much as you possibly can, especially from customer interactions. It's quite common for the owner to interact, especially with the larger customers, or even with the customers that are more sort of legacy ones, the ones that they signed up 5-10 years ago, and they still interact with those. So just trying to not necessarily cut it entirely, but it's not something that you should be kind of involved with on a regular basis, and that it's reliant on your team, because buyers are not interested, unless you're planning on staying on in the business, in having customers who are phoning your cell phone as a business owner for support or questions. So they should be trained, the customer should be trained to talk to your team and be used to and comfortable